Hi and greetings everyone. It's been quite a while, but I got the itch to make a battle report again, so here I am. Since my last video I've been to 3 tournaments and otherwise I've been busy trying to design some namesake stuff through the business I started recently. With that in mind, I will give you some recaps and thoughts on the evolution of my Dread Elves. Last year in November I attended the Necronomicon quest, which I was preparing for in the last video. I had a dragon list which I was really excited to play. Unfortunately I had a really rough start, as the two first games were against Vermin Swarm armies, both handled by EDC players. The first one had 2 cannons and divination, whereas the other one had 2 dread mills and divination. Needless to say, the dragon took some big beatings and I ended up with 2 losses. After that though, everything ran quite smoothly and I crushed 2 vampire lists and 1 Kingdom of Equitaine, so in the end it was the best result for the whole year actually. So I was rather happy with the list on the whole. The core setup of the army felt really solid and only the dragon felt like a wild card. So when the next tournament approached, I ditched the dragon and it was only a 4,000 points tournament too, so I couldn't fit it all anyway. I also wanted to try out Corsairs, so I swapped the blades, but otherwise the setup was intact. For that tournament I started off really well, crushed vampires and another Dread Elf list. After that it was downhill unfortunately, since I didn't have much of a chance against some Sylvans. Got a big hit from Pyromancy dwarves and lastly had a real struggle against some highborn elves. So with a disappointing result, I felt some things had to be looked over again. The Corsairs sadly was the first to go and my main focus was to improve the agility of my army to counter the amount of spears in for example highborn armies. Low agility also punished me against the monsters of the infernal dwarves, so for my latest tournament, Vetcon, I brought spears instead of the Corsairs or the blades. Since it was 5,000 points in that tournament, I also had room for some tower guards, and instead of taking the acolytes, I decided to try occultism on the oracle instead. A very infantry heavy list that in beforehand felt very good in most matchups, with a few exceptions. In the first game I was up against infernal dwarfs with pyromancy, so I straight away got to see if the changes had been to the better since the last tournament or not. And with a bunch more bodies in my army, I survived pyromancy a bit better, and with many of the decisive rolls exactly on my side, I landed a 15-5 win. Game 2 then was against the Warriors. It was marshaled by my good friend Jonas, and we had played the same matchup twice on Universal Battle quite recently, so to spice things up and with him having a very good looking army, I decided to make it a report instead. So first off, the matchup looked like this. No big edge to either one of us, I think, so it comes down to skill and dice. The deploy was Dawn Assault and the scenario was King of the Hill. I picked sides and wanted to use the impulse piece as protection, since it had worked really well on one of our Universal Battle games, so I would try to use it the same. But with the Dawn Assault it got a bit cramped for the deploy, and so I couldn't deploy exactly how I wanted it to use that piece, but anyway. I think he dropped everything first, and this picture is from his first turn. For the scenario he chose the hill at the top, probably since he knew I wouldn't advance much, and in that case I had to go through his unit, which I couldn't do until after combat, if the combat had gone well. I chose a forest far to the left, since I knew he couldn't afford to spare any scoring unit to go after that. This picture shows all his units and most of mine. From the left he has chosen cav, a forsaken one, a giant, a chariot, a chosen chariot should say, warriors with a sorcerer, forsaken one, forsworn with a doomlord, and warhounds peeking out at the top. From my left is a bolt thrower that's a bit out of the picture. Then we have the spears, the altar, judges with the tower guards and the characters behind. On the other flank are the raiders and the remaining bolt throwers. On the right, out of the picture, are also the dancers. My plan was for him to have to divide his army around the impasse, which I hoped would make it possible to deal with his unit a bit more one at a time. With his Forsworn, my plan also was for him to either risk taking the dancers in the flank and leave the dancers to grab the scenario, or go for the right and leave the rest of his army to fend for themselves. After 2 games against this army, I knew that I couldn't go up against the Forsworn with them at full strength, so that's why the shoot stuff is on that flank. So first turn, and he moved everything more or less against my combat flank. For magic, I think he sniped my judge champ and Dance Macabre, one of the Forsaken ones, and that's about all. I try to get ready for the counter charge when he gets close, and on the right I start to peel off his Forsworn. I think I got Rot Within on his warriors, but I'm not too sure about that, but maybe. After shooting, he has 3 less Forsworn at least, which is nice. And after his turn too, I got everything except his warriors staring down my face. And he had got Breath of Corruption off, killing some judges while sacrificing a wound from his Forsaken one. I think he just forgot about this dog's being in range, if it seemed like a weird choice for the sacrifice. Well, the Forsworn I can handle by just chaffing with a raider unit. On the right, on the other hand, I must hope for a little bit of luck, killing both the Forsaken ones. So in one round, so with Death Trance up, I charge the spears in the left one and the judges into the right. Here things get a bit tight because of the cramp deploy, and I would have liked to fit things in a bit better. For magic, I think I got 1 Forsworn, which was huge, since now he has less than 5 rank and file, and I got bolt throwers aiming at the BSB. I hit with at least 2 of them, and then his Doomlord is no more, which is a huge break. I probably used up my luck there, so in combat I think I got a wound or 2 below average instead of the opposite, which was what I needed. His Forsaken ones also win combat, which is bad since he reforms the left one and prevents me from turning to face his chosen cav with the spears. It's his turn 3 and it's time to charge, and the chariot gets the judges, while the chosen cav and the giant gets the spears. He told me that he would have charged the Doom Bull out too had he lived, which hadn't occurred to me. So that could have messed things up a bit worse. But instead the Forsworn take the raiders. And for combat he probably got rather battle on something, but I don't think he had needed it for this combat at least. The judges died to a man and the spears by the dozen, so some of the spears get away though, and they take down the Forsaken one at least. His Forsworn flub and the two raiders that are left actually stick on a low break test roll. It's my turn to countercharge, and the tower guards go against the chosen cav. On the other flank, the dancers charge the Forsworn. I think my magic left some things to wish for, and sadly none of his single models turned to dust. In the shooting phase, only the dogs go down, which is not much either. In combat I kill 3 knights, but he almost max out back, so he actually stick in that combat. The dancers easily pick off the Forsworn, and now have a clear path to the hill he chose to keep as the objective. He sees this and turn his Forsaken one to block my path by killing some raiders on the way. On the left flank, the tower guards get sandwiched between the warriors, cav and the chariot. His giants take on the spears, who rallied last turn. I might remember this wrong, but I think the raiders and the Forsaken one killed each other, since he just had 1 wound remaining. If not, I shot it down the turn after. The giant easily got rid of the spears, and before my tower guards and characters get smacked and run down, the chosen cav hits the dirt too. I think the chariot pursued off the board while the warriors charged the altar. That combat doesn't go well, of course, but before that I managed to get his giant down with the shooting. In the last turn we both go for the objective. I get 2 turns shooting on his chariot, but he's left with 1 wound and grabs a bolt thrower before the end. That makes the difference in a very close game, and the warriors win with 11-9. Some of the afterthoughts was that I had a very good plan on the right, which worked well, and on the left it was a very flawed one that in hindsight went as probably it should. So there was not many surprises in this game. I had luck with the timing by killing his BSB, but other than that, I think things went as it should have. When it comes to rolls and how things play out, just a bit disappointed by my deploy on the left flank. But well, all in all, I think Jonas played a better game and deserved the win. But it was a tight game and it was a tight score, so I wasn't too sad about it either. If we continue the tournament wrap up, that loss wasn't too bad and I'm still in a decent spot. After that I got up against Saurian Ancients. I played a good game and had some early bolt thrower luck, which led to a 20-0. Next was some vampires. Also a good matchup with a rather straightforward game plan. I made a really risky mistake mid-game, but thankfully I didn't have to pay for it since I passed a low break test roll, and otherwise he could have reformed and rolled up the flank of my units. But that wasn't to be, fortunately. Mostly a big slugfest, but in the end I won 15-5 since I was captured the flags and I could grab quite some small zombie units with my raiders, and otherwise we just stayed in the middle. I killed the models and he erased them, so that's pretty much it for that game. For last round I'm on 5th place and feeling rather very good, I should say. Sadly I got paired with one of the few bad matchups that I had on the tournament. It was ogres with war machines instead of rocks. In hindsight I deployed badly, which lands me in trouble with his hunter cowboys, which can mess things up very early. Besides that, he hits me with 3 Wraths of God and 1 Scratapult hit a turn. So I get beaten real bad long before I have the chance to charge anything. So that game went down the drain really fast. was sad since I had a good chance of a really successful tournament, but it's a 20-0, not in my favor. But one thing, funny twist in turn 5 where the game was over, but continued on anyway. And I could have got a lot of points just by a little mistake from him and a whole bunch of weird luck. Just his Bruiser Star is in combat with my Oracle and a few dancers, which was about all I had left on the board, actually, besides a bolt thrower or something. I challenge with the Oracle, and his mistakes, but he takes it with the BSB. My Oracle kicks his ass and kills the BSB with the 4 attack and his 4 HP. That makes me win combat by 1. And his whole star with the 2 shamans, general, runs away to me killing his BSB. It would have been rather hilarious if I had caught them, but my Oracle didn't roll high enough. And had she done that, that would have been, it hadn't been a draw since the Oracle was the only thing left, but it had netted me a lot of BPs. Instead, he stays in the open and get run down by a Thunder Cannon in the last, not even the last round, perhaps the 5th round, and I lose. So that game's not much to talk about. Played bad, had a bad matchup, and he was the better player with a better army. So that's it. All in all, a really good tournament, and all infantry lists seemed to work very well, with a few bad matchups, but which perhaps were a bit worse than if I had some other units. But I had a lot of really good matchups, slightly bit of luck with pairings. This kind of list could go through anything, go through a whole tournament unbeaten, I think. But I think this kind of list was a little bit less fun to play than some more diversity in it. I don't think I will play it exactly like this in the future, but something close to it. And I actually have some more tournaments planned already, but I don't know if I will bring the Dread Elves yet, or if I should try out the new demons. But probably, if I play the Dread Elves, will be 1 infantry combat unit less, perhaps, and some more interesting things. Well, thanks for watching.